Hey everybody, happy Halloween. I've always enjoyed Halloween, and I'm going to do a little video showing a couple books I have. If you enjoy Halloween and horror films like I do, then you might enjoy seeing them too. I'm not much for gory or crazy horror, but kind of a spooky gothic film like they don't make very many of anymore. Yes, I do enjoy those. Always have. I have a couple books I wanted to show you in honor of Halloween. This first one is the illustrated edition of Stephen King's Salem's Lot. Got to be one of the scariest books I've ever read. I remember seeing that when I was 18 at my friend's house, and the first half of it, and when those kids came up to the window, man, I was so scared. And I was 18. It wasn't like I was 7 and shouldn't have been watching it. I mean, I was 18 at my friend's house. I didn't want to walk home. And after that, my friend, sometimes he'd scratch on the windows, scare the heck out of me. I think they're remaking Salem's Lot. I hope they remake it and don't cop out with some of the psychological themes. One of the most jarring of which was vampire kids. Man, that was really scary. But this has some illustrations in it. I was a little disappointed with the illustrations. They were mostly just kind of stylized photos. They weren't really photos that evoked anything specific from Salem's Lot. The one thing I did enjoy, and the reason I bought the book, it has some deleted scenes in it, which are actually sections of the book that were cut from the final manuscript. I did read through those when I got this book. It was kind of interesting. You could see some of the additional conversations and things, and a few attacks, if you will, that were not in the book. The book is really scary, by the way. The book is maybe the best scary book I've ever read. But, and a couple of them are really pretty filthy dirty. Stephen King could get kind of racy, you know. The one where Dud Rogers comes to Ruthie Crockett. There's a scene in here which was deleted from the final manuscript, and it's pretty dirty. But anyway, and I could see why they deleted it, frankly. It's like a lot of deleted scenes. You watch those on DVDs sometimes. Back when we had DVDs with special features, I don't guess we get those anymore. But you used to see those deleted scenes, and they were kind of fun to watch. But a lot of times you'd also sort of get a sense of why they were deleted. By the way, that music is me playing my Fender Esquire through a Q95 Dunlop Crybaby pedal. It's used on my Frank Frazetta video depicting Frank Frazetta art, and I privatized it right after I did it for like almost a year, so I don't think anyone's seen it. But if you look down there, you can see my Frank Frazetta video. That's what's playing right now with that kind of spooky wah-wah pedal. This book is Anne Rice's Queen of the Damned. I read a couple books by Anne Rice. Never did actually read Anne Rice, but it's the first edition signed by Anne Rice. So my fantasy is that someday it'll be worth some money, not that that's why I bought it. I did read Interview with the Vampire and The Vampire Lestat when I was a kid, like in high school, and I thought they were both excellent books. And then I saw her in a bookstore and bought this, and she signed it. Last but surely not least, I've got this book, Hammer Glamour, which is a tribute to the ladies of Hammer Films. I'm not sure why I bought it, but it's got all the stars, female stars, starlets, I guess they might have called them back then, of Hammer movies. Just great. I guess we're allowed to say this. Some very beautiful women. There's Raquel Welch. But this book is really nice, and I saw someone on. There's Ursula Andress. They're kind of in alphabetical order once you get going, so you can just look through. Let's see here. Eva Bartok. I don't know them all. Stephanie Beacham. Do not know all these actresses. Let's see. Let's find Madeline Smith. She's a good one. There's Joanna Lumley. But those Hammer films were just great. And this is really nice. In fact, I was thinking about maybe doing a little music slideshow video with some of the photography in this. It's really a nice book. Somebody told me they sell for a fair amount of money. I don't know if that's true. But it's really worth having. Let's see here. We got... There's so many you flip through, and most of them you don't know. That is... I can't even read it upside down. Judy Geeson. And then we've got Jenny Hanley. Ooh. Now that's a good gothic movie. You got a sort of a maiden with the diaphanous gown. You've got a spooky old castle. What happened to vampire movies like that, huh? Vampires was like lived in spooky castles or coffins, mausoleums. They didn't, go to high school and twinkle. Let's see, Valerie Leone. There's so many. I'm missing a lot of them. Caroline Munro. Just a really good book. Kate O'Mara. She was the governess in that great movie with Ingrid Pitt, Peter Cushing, and Madeline Smith, if I'm not mistaken. The Vampire Lovers. Which was, people always remember that because it was a little bit early 70s cheesecake. But actually, it was a really good adaptation of the Sheridan Le Fanu novel, Carmilla. I know it had some of the soft Playboy-esque elements in it from the early 70s. But it's actually a very good adaptation of the book if you look past that, if you want to look past that. And it's just a great film. There's Ingrid Pitt. Yeah, there's another one of Ingrid Pitt. Stephanie Powers. Let's see here. There's Madeline Smith. One of the things I like about Hammer, I'm a Beatles fan. I like the British Invasion. And as you get older, you realize that 60s in London, I guess they call it swinging London. You had like James Bond and the Beatles, Twiggy. Patty Boyd, actually, was very much a part of that. And so were Hammer films. You watch those Hammer films from London, from in the 60s. Some of them were set in present-day London. And they're just great. And the women were very much of that kind of swinging London period a lot of times. That kind of like Patty Boyd. There's Ingrid Pitt and Madeline Smith. Yeah, the vampires back then, there's Udi Stensgaard from To Love a Vampire, another great movie. You got a few racy photos there. There's Raquel Welch. Of course, she was in 1 Million BC, where people fight dinosaurs, but still a pretty good movie. Yeah. So those are just a few books I thought I'd share. This Hammer one's really pretty nice. It's got a few that are a little over the PG-13 line, but mostly it's just sort of, it walks you through in alphabetical order, and it's a good way to see all the films that Hammer ever did and all the female stars that they had during those glory years of Hammer films. The Stephen King Salem's Lot book is just terrific. Totally recommend it if you haven't read it. And the film, the 79 film, there's not a drop of blood in it. There's only a jump scare or two at the most. And it's still probably the scariest movie I've ever seen, over a lot of... And that was made for TV. I think primetime TV. And it's still the scariest movie I have ever seen. And the book is the scariest book I've ever read, I would say. So definitely made an impression. And Anne Rice was pretty good. I enjoyed meeting her that day. Just a little story. That was the same bookstore in East Lansing, the Peanut Barrel. And around that time, I also met Russell Johnson, the professor from Gilligan's Island, and bought his book, and he signed it. And I'll never forget, there was a big group of people at the window of the Peanut Barrel in the street kind of looking in at this in this college town. And I said, what's going on there? And somebody said, there he is, there he is. And I said, well, who's in there? There he is, there he is. No, seriously, no, that's really him. And I looked in, and they said, it's the professor from Gilligan's Island. And sure enough, there was this older man sitting at the table with the older woman eating a cheeseburger, and yes, it was the professor. So later that day, I went to the bookstore and bought his book, and he signed it. And I said, sir, you have the greatest resume in academic history. All your fields of knowledge were vast. Tribal languages, butterfly anatomy, Shakespeare, how to make a Geiger counter out of a coconut. Too bad he couldn't fix the boat, as has often been noted. But I met Anne Rice at that same bookstore, and she signed that. So that's the first edition, hardcover copy of Anne Rice's Queen of the Damned. Maybe it'll be worth some money someday, huh? Thanks. God bless.